Cool. Looks like we're out there. See if we can't get a few people to start tuning in. But yeah, okay. If we're ready to go, let's do it.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Kickin' Show, the official podcast of Kicking the Tires. And we've got a whole host on our panel tonight of great people: Justin Schuler, Zach Catanzaretti, Summer Bedgood, and Seth Eggert. And then they let me join as well. So one day I'm not going to be here, and they're going to be doing all of this. So stay tuned for that. You'll definitely want to subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure that you get a real show. But no, you are talking to the meat in the middle of the Daytona Sammich right now. Zach and I were at Daytona last weekend for the Daytona 500. We saw an incredible race, and then I'll be at Daytona. Zach bailed on me. I think he wanted to go play in the snow. And I'll be at Daytona this weekend on the road course. By the way, did you know, Zach, that it is about a 1 mile hike to the bus stop from where we have to park to get photos for the road course race?
So you have to walk
Yes.
1 mile?
Yeah, roughly.
Why can't you just drive?
They won't let you. That's inside their bubble. We're inside the track, but there's different areas, and we have some very strict rules for shooting photos for the road course because that will be inside the track. But
Okay.
we will have coverage from Daytona's road course this weekend. But before we get to that, let's talk about last weekend's race, the season opener, Daytona 500. Michael McDowell goes to victory lane in fiery fashion, for lack of a better term. He was lit. And or maybe Brad Keselowski was lit, but either way,
And Austin Cindric.
it was a great race, and you know, some people said that there was a little bit of I don't know, follow the leader for a while, but we knew that it was delayed for 6 hours. We knew the race was going to take on that effect, but you know, coming to the checkered flag, they had to make their moves. They had to try and get a win, and that's what we see almost every year is drivers trying to get a win in the biggest race of the season. Michael McDowell gave Brad Keselowski. He was going to go no matter what. Joey Logano was leading the race. He was, so Brad makes a move. Michael McDowell, gives him a shove. I guess the shove sent him up a little bit too fast. Joey tried to throw a block. Joey and Brad got together, and Michael McDowell took the lead and went on as the field crashed behind him. It collected several other good drivers after we had already seen a lap 15 race, crash that took out, 16 cars, and kind of changed the whole dynamic of the 500. So Michael McDowell wins the race, Chase Elliott second, Austin Dillon in third, Kevin Harvick in fourth, and then Denny Hamlin, he was going for 3 in a row, winds up fifth in this year's Daytona 500. So he's got to start all over again if he wants to be the only driver to win a 3 Daytona 500s in a row. But you look at the lineup, Summer. How big is this for an underfunded? Front Row Motorsports is not the biggest team in the garage. They don't have a ton of money. Their sponsors, come and go from time. And they have some loyal ones like Loves has been on the car for a long time. But what does this mean for a team like Michael McDowell and Front Row Motorsports to be able to put it in victory lane at the biggest race of the year?
I think it's huge for a couple of reasons. I think the first, of course, is the exposure. I mean, Michael McDowell got to go on that media tour and be in front of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who may not watch NASCAR on a regular basis. His story is getting told to people who may really resonate with underdog stories and follow sports for that reason. And now they can go to potential sponsors that can give them the funding they need to be a top-tier team and say, we're Daytona 500 champions. That's a pretty big deal to be able to do that. Who knows if that's actually going to lead to the kind of funding that they need to be the kind of contenders that they like to be. But at the same time, I have to think that it helps generate interest, especially in the immediate aftermath. I think that it also really helps the morale of the team. And I know morale does not necessarily equal speed, but in a sport where tenths and thousandths of a second is what sometimes makes the difference, small things like the excuse me, my animals are making noises. Small things like the morale of the team and the motivation and feeling excited for the next week can make I think any team owner would tell you can make a difference. So and not only do I think it helps financially, I think it helps the team have something to look forward to. They probably are feeling a lot more confident heading into the road course, even though it's a completely different style of racetrack. It's very unlikely that the results from last week will translate in any way to this week in terms of learning things, but you have to imagine they're still going into the weekend excited and motivated and then ready to try and follow that up with a good finish and maybe a win if circumstances fall right, though I don't know that anybody would necessarily predict that, but we wouldn't have predicted he won the 500 either. So, and I also think it's good for the sport in a lot of ways. I think that NASCAR's fan base is really engaged when a small underfunded team, in terms of if you compare them to the big teams, when they win races and they get to victory lane. I think Michael McDowell has been around for a long time. People know his story. People know how hard he's worked, the kind of rides that he's had to accept to keep his name out there on the racetrack. And so I think it really helps the fans feel engaged and rally around a driver when they see him finally break through to victory lane, not just for his first win, but in the biggest race of the season. And then, of course, what it does for NASCAR outside of the sport. And I think anybody can enjoy a good underdog story and hearing that someone is sort of the David versus Goliath victory. So, and super speedway races have been traditionally very friendly to Bob Jenkins and Front Row Motorsports and et cetera. You think back to when David Reagan and David Gilliland finished 1-2 at Talladega in 2013. You look at some of the team's best finishes, they've come at super speedways. So those are really good tracks to have on the schedule to look forward to for those guys. I'm so glad that they had the opportunity to get their name out there and that we talk about them more when we go to Talladega and Talladega and Daytona and we go to super speedway races. So I think it's a good thing all around for the team, for the fans, for the sport, and hopefully it translates in some really positive ways for that race team. So happy for Michael McDowell. There's not very many people more deserving than that. So looking forward to see what they do the rest of the year and looking forward to the next super speedway race to see if we can get another underdog in victory lane.
I think you mentioned it too about the sponsors opportunities. What's cool is Love's, like you said, has been a very loyal sponsor to McDowell, and I don't know if you guys have seen, but on Love's.com, which is the Love's Truck Stop website, they already have had all this week the full front cover of Michael McDowell's pit crew, assisting the car and saying Michael McDowell and Love's number 34 or Daytona 500 champions kind of thing. So that loyalty is right there.
And if I may, how fitting is it that the Love's car won the 500 on Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
Well, technically, it was not Valentine's Day at the time that it crossed.
Well, the race started.
I get what you're saying.
Started.
Yeah. Yeah.
But McDowell also did have to overcome that lap 15 wreck. He slapped the wall trying to avoid it, and that they actually did have to make repairs after the rain delay. So
Yeah.
Well, heck,
he was.
I thought Bubba got into him too at one point.
I think that might have been during one of the green flag pit stops.
Okay.
well, and heck, he almost got involved in the last lap crash. He just happened to split the middle between Logano and Keselowski. So it could have very easily gone another direction. We could see Chase Elliott or Denny Hamlin or whoever else in victory lane. So, but I also don't want to just attribute it to luck. I mean, Michael McDowell has actually some pretty good statistics at Daytona. His average finish at most racetracks is in like the mid to low 20s. His average finish at Daytona is 19th, I think. I think he's got 3 top 5s there in like the last 5 or 6 races or something like that. So it's definitely not just luck. There definitely is a skill set to racing at Daytona and Talladega and super speedway races, and he has it. So maybe we should have seen this coming, or at least the potential for it coming. So I don't want to just attribute it to luck, but you do look at, he definitely did have a lot of close calls on Sunday into Monday morning, and so it definitely was not an easy victory for them.
This guy saw it coming.
You saw it coming.
I can prove it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that skill set that you mentioned, it definitely came into effect on that last lap, or I guess lap and a half to go. I mean, he was one of the very few, him and Keselowski, when Brad started backing up, you kind of knew what they were trying to get, and Michael was right there with him. They jumped the 4, and then they had just a little bit of time to get by the 22, and they ended up making contact. And obviously, making moves was something that we did not see on Sunday. I thought it was a very bad race. I was definitely very disappointed. I mean,
I thought it was a good race. How did you? I thought it was a good race.
I so disagree.
If I may, the reason why you had that train for the most part, that lap 15 wreck took out so many cars that they weren't able to build up the momentum. They weren't able to build up the energy.
When people say that, I look to races like the Busch Clash in 2020. When there was 6 cars that finished and there was 5 lead changes in the last 2 laps.
Yeah.
And what we saw during like the green flag pit stops, Harvick would be running with 4 guys right behind him. Denny would be out front, and Ford they would go to the bottom of the track in turn 3 to pit, and they would pass Denny Hamlin to the lead.
Let me tell you why.
Harvick's leading and Denny is back in 5th. Like, if they wanted to race, they could have.
No, they can't. They can't. Let me tell you why. Because if a Ford team pushes a Chevrolet car to victory lane, or if he even gives that appearance, someone's catching hell on Monday morning. Probably not even before they leave the track.
That didn't have to happen. Everybody had manufacturers with them.
They could not get teamed up with who they needed to in order to go to the front. And they're all selfish. Number one, they all want to get the win.
Yep.
But seriously, they had serious team orders going into this race that you do not work with a bow tie if you're a blue oval. And if you're a Toyota, you don't work with anybody. You're on your own.
They had Toyotas with them. Like, Denny had Kyle Busch, Harvick had Logano and Keselowski. Like, there was Chevys with Larson and those guys. Like, it wasn't like it was like one of each manufacturer.
But again, like I said, with the energy and the momentum, the fastest line was around the top. So with Logano leading the field around the top of the track, and they had, I think, 4 or 5 Fords versus 3 Toyotas and 5 Chevys. The Chevys would have had to have all of the Toyotas and the 1 Ford of Cindric that was all the way in back to follow them to actually have enough cars to break the momentum.
And the other thing you have to deal with is Joey and Brad were going to run together until the last lap because they're teammates. Michael McDowell was the only one that was out there. He was kind of the Lone Ranger for himself, and he'd already committed he was going to go with Brad no matter what Brad did. You know, if he's such a genius and he's such a great racer that he can shove Brad and calculatively make Brad go into Joey, split the middle like the seas parting for Moses, and then go through the flames and as people are crashing all around him, he needs to be at Hendrick Motorsports. But I mean, look, McDowell, he was at the right place at the right time. He is a great road course racer, by the way. He came from sports cars and came over here. He's been in NASCAR for 14 years. This is his first win. I thought the finish justified what they did based on the fact that Kurt Busch taken out in a crash on lap 15. I forget. Let's see. There were 16 cars, and
Blaney,
8 of them,
Bowman.
Yeah, there were 8 of them were contenders that we would have had up there battling for a lead. You know, some of them were not going to be out. Most likely going to be out there doing it. But we had 8 at least that could have contended for the lead. I want to go back to one thing. I bet $7 on Michael McDowell. $7.
How much did you get?
66 to 1.
Oh gosh.
Yes, I took all the long shots and bet a few bucks on every one of them in Vegas, and he was the 66 to 1. Now, if Ryan Preece would have won, it would have been a much whole different. It'd have been very, very good for everybody.
Yeah, just to put a bow on that, I mean, we were just talking about the finish there, of course, and I get running around for the last 10, 20 laps, setting yourself up, but it was probably 170 laps of single file racing, and most of the day they were just burning fuel up there. I just didn't see too much anticipation and too much incentive Run,
I don't know
except
what
for
they. I don't know what they could have done any differently, though. I mean,
you tried.
you don't win the race. You don't win the race on. You don't win the race on lap. 175.
Exactly, and there's only 15
And-
cars. Why not try? It's not like there's
And-
40 cars behind you. You don't even have too much.
And just another factor to put a bow on all of this, the Toyotas, I think, would have had a better chance had they left pit road, that final pit stop, together instead of so spread out, for one. And for
They
another, if it
didn't play
wasn't
their-
for
they didn't
Bubba
pit-
Wallace's...
They didn't play their pitch
loose-
strategy right at all.
Yeah, and the loose wheel for Bubba Wallace didn't help because that dropped him, by the time he got caught back up with the pack, a lap down and at the end of the pack, so he couldn't help Denny and Kyle at all.
I was looking at Cindric. Did you see how fast Cindric was coming through the field?
Yeah.
Yeah, quietly,
Oh,
but
man.
yeah, very quickly.
By the way, he was a 250 to 1 long shot to win.
Well, I don't think those odds were the same in the Xfinity series for him because he's kind of the eye for this year in Xfinity, and picks up right where he left off and won the Xfinity race at Daytona. The Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. If I've ever thought of like if a redneck wins the lottery and gets to name a NASCAR race, there you go.
Look, hey, the Florida Beef Council provided food for the media for 2 days. Let me tell you something. Thank you, Florida Beef Council. I tweeted about it, okay? And I showed their photos of the people that came in there. They served us tenderloin on one day and beef carne asada tacos the next day. Phenomenal food for the media, for the press box.
You could have brought that out to me. I was kind of starving in the grandstands all weekend.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I'm going to be in your shoes this week, so.
Yeah, enjoy. It's a lot of fun though.
If you want to come down here, I can get you in the.
It's
I
fun.
can get you in the press box if you want to come down this week.
Nah, man, I'm good. I'm sick of my car. I gotta chill out.
So Austin Cindric winning over Brett Moffitt, Harrison Burton, Jeb Burton getting a top 5 finish, and then AJ Allmendinger ran out the top 5 for Xfinity. And then the Truck Series, Ben Rhodes, a great finish for the truck race too. Corey Roper putting on a good last move, leading down the backstretch. I didn't think anyone was going to get a run, but Rhodes picking up some extra, finding a hole somewhere and just getting by.
Well, for Roper, he had so much damage from one of the earlier wrecks. By the time they got off of turn 4, his momentum had died out, which is why both Ben Rhodes and Jordan Anderson came bombing to buy him out. I think in the last 150 feet or so to the line.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, the winner of the truck race was a 15 to 1 shot, and the winner of the Xfinity was an 8 to 1.
What were the odds of the second place finishes?
I didn't care about them because they don't pay. But I hit the trifecta this weekend. I hit all 3. I hit winners in all 3 races.
Boom.
I feel like Jerry is trying to get on one of the sports betting websites.
Now I just wanted to pay y'all salary this week.
But the truck race also didn't really get started off very well either. Tanner Gray broke a drivetrain, ending the day for James
that was
Butcher and
classic.
Gustine, who
That
crashed.
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tim Vines too. I think when he
And
went
Tim
out for
Vines,
or
yeah.
he went out for his or tried to go out for his qualifying session and literally left the
Yeah, that's-
drivetrain.
That's what I'm talking about. His truck, Tim Vine's truck, just said, "I don't want to race today."
And
Push
by
the-
the way, Tim Veen's team withdrew from the Daytona road course.
He's withdrawn from more races than he's done, I think. I think if you combine
yeah.
his draws
Yeah.
and his B and Qs, it's more than his starts in the truck series. I don't know
I
what's going
think that is a safe thing for the rest of the field, because if your drive shaft falls out when your team is pushing your truck out onto the grid for the Daytona 500 qualifying,
or for any qualifying for that matter.
what is it saying about your mechanics in your shop when your drive shaft falls out from underneath your truck before you ever turn a single lap?
That's
What's his
something
name
that
for the inspection process? How did that truck get through?
that's true. I didn't even
Well,
think of that.
well, the thing is, he was the only one not to put a lap down in practice. So he didn't have any laps on the truck.
They don't get underneath
he
the
got
truck.
through tech.
They don't get underneath the trucks in tech. They don't get underneath them.
I think they should now.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I don't think they put them through the Hawkeye system. As a matter of fact, I know
they don't.
I know they don't. Because actually, I've heard from some Truck Series drivers, because I joked a couple of years ago about wanting to race a truck, and they directed me as to which trucks to actually drive and which trucks to stay away from, like the plague. So there are some trucks out there that probably aren't the safest as others, So we learned that Tim Vine's truck is one of those that maybe the bolts aren't quite tightened as much as they should be.
Use Gorilla Glue.
Gorilla Glue.
There you go.
Summer, call them and get them to sponsor the podcast.
Should I put them in my hair? Should I smooth it out?
We could come up with a segment for like the crash of the week goes to this person, sponsored by Gorilla Glue.
This person needs some Gorilla Glue. They lost another part.
Or flex tape, yeah.
Let's move a little bit. Let's move to a different style of racing and talk to Seth about iRacing. What's happening there? I know we've got a deal working with our friend Brandon Cattell. Again, we're gonna have a kick on his car. FTF sponsorships are happening, and we're also working a couple other deals with some sponsorships in iRacing. I want to be the king of iRacing sponsorships for kicking the tires.
Well, first off, going back a little over a week ago, we had the Podium 500, which was Podium Esports. They did their own Daytona 500s. The qualifying for that is kind of like the Chili Bowl. You get put into a heat, then you have to go from the heat into one of, whether it's the LCQ or the duel, and then try to race your way in, essentially. Unfortunately, I got wrecked out in my heat on the white flag lap.
Ooh.
It happens.
I was in the transfer.
They're a giant fireball.
No, but my car may have kissed the hand of God.
Okay.
That's how high the car got into the air. But Casey Kerwin ended up winning the Podium 500. That's one of the Coke Series drivers. Anthony Alfredo finished 5th on his side backwards in the Podium 500.
Finish.
So, but he did finish. The Coca-Cola Series opener went caution-free, 100 laps at Daytona, despite a wreck on lap 31 with Malik Ray, Ryan Luza, and Zach Novak. Michael Connie won as the entire field wrecked behind him in turns 3 and 4 on the final lap.
Kind of like the real Daytona.
Well, the real Daytona, it was about 8 or 9 cars. This one, it was more like 25.
Same concept.
It's
called the big one. That way you don't have to worry about which cars are involved.
Yeah. But Junior Motorsports, they got their first victory of the year. Michael Conley is now locked into the playoffs because they now have a win and you're in system, like the real life series. He just has to finish in the top 20 in points, however. Michael Getz finished second. Rookie Jake Matheson, one of 11 rookies, drifted through the wreck and finished third with, I think, minor right rear damage. And you had Bobby Zelensky use the chicane, if it was there, to avoid the wreck. So it was an interesting race. We're sponsoring Brandon Cattell in the E-Racer Carnomaly 500, which it is the Gen 5 COT Cup cars without restrictor plates at Daytona. So they're reaching speed between 230 and 250 around the track.
We will look like a Tony the Tiger Frosted Plates car with Terry Labonte. So, and
I believe I've
already seen it.
Yes, I've seen it too. I believe his prelim is going on either right now or it's the next one. It's over on the E-Racer Twitch. It's promoted by Parker Klingerman and Landon Castle. They're doing some interesting things. They have their own like mid-race fantasy votes and this and that they're doing this year. It should be a very fun and interactive race.
So what you're saying is kicking the tires is hobnobbing with real race car drivers in the
yes
in iRacing. So,
yes.
So we're on the tips of the tongues of real NASCAR drivers.
Yes, we are. Kyle Busch, I know he missed his pit stall in his prelim.
Did he blame it on me?
No, he did not. I know James Davison got wrecked out of his prelim. I know Justin Allgaier made it into the main event, or well, the qualifying, which is next week at least. Whether or not he makes it to the main event, we'll find out after their battles, their version of the duels next week. It should be interesting. I believe Dale Jr., Bobby Labonte, and a few others, Elliott Sadler, are also entered into this race. So they have a pretty stacked field, especially for an iRacing event. This is the third race that Parker Claremont Landon Castle had promoted. They promoted the Firecracker races last year and the Hard to Drive 300 at Atlanta last year, which was the same Gen 5 cars, one set of tires at Atlanta for 300 miles.
Wow. Well, so one more with FTF. How did that go this weekend? I know we had the Xfinity Series race, and I think Dayton sponsored their other big event.
Yeah, Dayton sponsored their 500, which was a few weeks ago. Their Cup Series, I think, is back on next week. But we did sponsor their race. It was at New Smyrna, 150 miles, I believe. And it was a good race. Unfortunately, I had some stuff going on that I wasn't able to participate in it. But we did have a car in the field. And I just lost the page, so I apologize.
That's okay. So while you're looking for that, I want to say something about Daytona this weekend on the road course. NASCAR has gone in on the bus stop in the back chicane of the track, where it was very muddy and dirty last week for the Clash. They have gone in and put in turtles and some curbing to kind of remind the drivers that, hey, you're not supposed to go off out into the dirt. So I haven't seen how extreme this is. My only hope is that I make the 1 mile trek over to where it's at, and I'm shooting photos at the exact moment that someone's car goes airborne and flies apart in the middle of the air, like Bubba Wallace did at Charlotte when they did the same thing on the backstretch. So,
better than hitting
dirt. Well, the main difference though is Bubba Wallace. He also hit a tire barrier. To be fair,
I was gonna say I think Eric Jones was the one that hit just the turtle and destroyed the car. Yeah.
Oh, well, didn't they do a car swap or something? I don't know.
No. Anyway, we had Rich Jameson in the Kicking the Tires machine in the Kicking the Tires 150 at New Smyrna Speedway, and it was won by Winvo Michael Cozy Jr., who's a big Twitch streamer. Okay. He has been known to win big events. It was a good race. I'm looking at some of the results right now. Let's see. We have Ethan Corder, who is leading the regular season standings by 6 points over iRacing's Jake Poulin, who is a production associate at iRacing.
Awesome. So we're going to have more on the FTF stuff as we sponsor. We actually have some Cup Series race sponsorships coming up as well. We're sponsoring COTA. I had to fight for that one, so we'll have that. Justin, I know Supercross is in Orlando this weekend. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be able to run over there and do it, but they're also going to be in Arlington in a couple of weeks. You might be there for that, or I might be there for that. It's a coin flip at this point. But take us through what's going on over the Supercross world on two-wheel racing, and then we will let Zach close us out. So we kind of go a round table with our picks for the road course.
Yeah, so kind of like how NASCAR is in this Daytona Sammich, as you say, Supercross is in Orlando Sammich. So they just had Orlando 1 this past weekend, and this upcoming Saturday will be the second Orlando race. And Cooper Webb grabbing the win, but guess who's right behind him? The guy that's kind of shown this first half of the year that he's the one to beat for the championship, Ken Roczen. Both of them actually getting by Zach Osborne about halfway through the race. Just Webb able to get get by both of them in one turn, and Ken only able to get by Osborne. So, but a good race out there. Less than a second between first and second between those two. So that's definitely a close finish in Supercross. So it'll be exciting to see how the rest of this year goes for Roczen, see if anyone else might be able to answer what he's kind of laid out for everyone. And then Eli Tomac too, last year's champion, getting a top 5 finish. Everyone thought he'd be up there battling the other two, but didn't get a good start. Did have a fall, but was able to continue on just fine. So but yeah, Roczen having a 13-point lead in that championship. And then over in the 250s, Jet Lawrence was able to grab the win. As you know, he's had a couple rounds out from that shoulder injury, coming back in just the right style and grabbing his second career win over Colt Nichols and Christian Craig. So that moves him up to 4th in the standings, but obviously missing a few rounds. And with the East Division only having 2 races left in their championship, it's pretty much going to come down between Colt Nichols and Christian Craig. Michael Mossman was that third rider, but he ended up having a hand injury and had to miss Orlando 1. So now it's Joe Shimoda sitting there in that third position on his Kawasaki machine. So.
Yeah, I'm surprised Jet came back. I mean, he face planted at Indy. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that was crazy, and to see him come back and be competitive, I didn't know it was a shoulder at the time. I guess we actually learned later that night that it was, but I figured he was going to be carted off.
Oh, Jerry, did you lose you? I think we lost Jerry.
You lose me? No, I'm here.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So, yeah.
We lost you for like 10 minutes. Like, catch us back up.
Yeah.
10 minutes. Let's just say I felt bad for Jet in Indy, and I'm glad to see him win. Glad to see him get a win, heat win, and maybe he can pull it out and get a top 3 or something for the season.
Yeah, he's only 10 points behind Joe Shimoda, so that'll be a good battle between those two to see who's going to be the last podium step for the championship standings. So off to the West Division, so that should be this next round coming up. Actually, let me confirm that here. Because like I said, the 250s have a West and East Division. Yes, 250 West going to start this weekend in Orlando. That's a little weird for Supercross, I know, but with the second half of COVID happening, obviously we couldn't get a lot of West Coast races in, so Supercross having to pull a few other things. And then obviously Daytona Beach having their Supercross race, one of the most iconic ones that Supercross puts on, with that huge long sand trap that they race across. So that'll be fun to watch.
Who knows? Maybe I'll come back down to Daytona for that and just add to the number of times I show up in South Florida or Central Florida. So Zach, take us through who you think and give your reasons why you think they will. The winner, who the winner will be for the road course this weekend, and then we'll go to Summer, and then Seth and Justin, and then I'll close it out.
Yeah, this is certainly one of the many road courses that Cup's going to be racing this year that there's not too much of a playbook on. You know, we've raced here once before. We did the Clash a little bit. Not all the teams were involved in that non-point race a couple weeks ago, so not a whole lot to look at. Starting with the truck series, I definitely look at someone like a John Hunter Nemechek. He has a road course win in the past. Kyle Busch Motorsports Equipment, he's pretty much their first ever driver who's joined the team with experience. They tend to pick ARCA drivers and really young guys. But John, I mean, he was in the Cup Series last year, and has Xfinity win. He's won many truck races. So I think the experience and the competition and the lack of track time and the equipment is all going to come together well. But also look out for Rafael Lassard as well. He was third in that race last year, and he's got GMS equipment, so he might be pretty good this year. Up to Xfinity, man, I love the Xfinity series. I thought the road course races last year were absolutely outstanding. If you look at Allmendinger and Cindric and Briscoe, who's not going to be in the race this time, but I mean, they put on just unbelievable shows. Some of the best road course racers we've seen in decades, and Allmendinger and Cindric. But I'm actually going to look past them and look at Noah Gragson. He might not have a win, but he's super competitive on road courses. He nearly won the Indy road course last year, finished third. He was second at the Charlotte Roval, finished third at the Daytona road course last year. So overall, his road course finishes in 2020 were third, sixth, third, and second, which was pretty shocking. I knew he ran well a couple times, but all across the board, he was competitive and there at the end. So I'll pick Gragson for that. And then for Cup, I guess I'm a little boring. I'm probably going to go with Elliott. He's clearly the number one, but I'm definitely looking at Denny Hamlin and Keselowski. They definitely don't have that long list of wins. I believe just one combined. Keselowski's never won on a road course, but they certainly bring the power nearly every time. Stage wins, laps led. They dominate, but it just doesn't lead to many wins. I think that might change. They're coming off of a rough 500 finish. Denny dominated, but didn't get the win, and Brad obviously with one of the worst wrecks we've seen in a while. So I think they're going to be hot on their heels to come back and win. And don't count Michael McDowell out. I mean, we know that he's a great super speedway racer, but he's a great road course racer. That's where his roots are from. He's one of the more skilled road racers in the Cup Series, and he's coming off that big win, and he's starting up front. I believe he starts second in the race. So if he can just stay out of trouble and get through that final stage okay, I think a top 10 is definitely in the works. I don't expect a win. Maybe a top 5. We saw Chris Buescher get a top 5 last year at Daytona, so maybe that'll happen for him. But as I said, Chase is my guy. He's won there already at Daytona. He's won Watkins Glen. He's owned the Charlotte Roval, and I think he's going for 4 straight points wins. Nearly won the Clash a couple weeks ago, and he's got everything going for him on road courses. So I'll pick Elliott for the Cup Series, Gragson for Xfinity, and John Hunter Nemechek for the Truck Series. And who do you guys have?
Summer?
I think I'm going to go with Martin Truex Jr. For the Cup Series race. He's I don't have as many statistics to rattle off for him. My dog says hi.
My dog.
But his name's Mikey because I think he's just going to want to be a regular part of the show now. So, Mikey. There you go. Anyway. But I think Martin Truex Jr. has kind of been overshadowed by Chase Elliott lately. Truex had started to earn a reputation for being a good road course racer. I think almost kind of like a dark horse. He has good statistics, but he usually wasn't the first one to be mentioned. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him do well this weekend and go to victory lane. I think I'm going to choose the low-hanging fruit for the Xfinity Series and choose Dawson Cindric. That would be 2 in a row to start the season. That would be a pretty big accomplishment for him. But I think that's not necessarily the reason I'm picking him, but rather his prowess on road course races. So, sorry, guys, I'm going to take him on that one. And then for the Truck Series, I believe it was Brett Moffitt that finished second to Sheldon Creed last year. And I think that we might see him get one position better this time around. Brett Moffitt just seems like a really good all-around race car driver that he can do well on just about any type of racetrack. So even though he may not be known as a road ringer, I think he has the talent and ability to be able to capitalize on the opportunities and make something happen this season to potentially go to victory lane. So I have Brett Moffitt for the Trucks, Austin Cindric for Xfinity, and Truex for Cup.
Well, for me, for the Truck Series, I'm going to go with Sheldon Creed. Say he wins the Daytona road course 2 in a row. He's been strong on road courses in general over the years, whether it's ARCA, ARCA East, ARCA West, even trucks now. So I'm going to go with him. In Xfinity, I'm going to go like Summer, take the low-hanging fruit, but not the one you're thinking of. I'm going to go with AJ Allmendinger. What more can I say with him as far as the Daytona road course? And for Cup, I'm going to go with the obvious choice and pick Chase Elliott.
Ooh, so we got 2 people picking Chase Elliott. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll go forwards to backwards. I'm looking through this list of Cup drivers, and you've got a lot of really good road course racers that got involved in a wreck at Daytona. So they're starting in the back. You got Alex Bowman, you got Matt DiBenedetto. So you got a few bigger names further back here, and then some names you obviously wouldn't expect up towards the top. Michael McDowell winning the 500, going to start second on Sunday. Ryan Preece starting 6th. Corey LaJoie starting 7th. Ross Chastain starting 9th. Now I know Ross is in a Chip Ganassi car, but that's definitely a new realm for him to be starting up front. But I'm gonna pick whoever is running 3rd on the last lap because I think Blaney's gonna get back at Chase, and whoever's sitting in 3rd is gonna be crossing that line first. So that's gonna be my pick. So I'll be sure I tweet that out when that white flag waves, and I'm just gonna start saying this is gonna be the winner. Just kidding. But no, that's kind of what I feel is gonna happen out at Daytona on the road course. For the Xfinity Series, I'm actually going to go with someone who hasn't won in any 3 of the series just yet, and that is going to be a Daniel Hemrick. He's starting 5th, and I think he's finally going to get his first NASCAR Touring Series win. He hasn't had a win in Trucks, Xfinity, or in Cup yet, and I think now he's gonna get it this weekend.
So what you're saying is we're going to see a backflip finally from him.
Yes, and all the Carl Edwards fans can come back.
So you're picking Hemrick and what? In Xfinity?
I'm picking Daniel Hemrick in Xfinity. Correct.
So okay. That's my pick. That was my. Now I gotta find. And what's worse is every pick that I've had, y'all made me change. So I'm thinking about going.
Hey, you know how I feel when I go last now.
I'm honestly thinking about picking Jade Buford with Big Machine Racing. I don't know anything about Jade Buford, but
he's a sports car guy that's moving to NASCAR.
You were giving us the odds earlier for long shots.
So half of us are looking up Vegas odds right now.
Right.
Let me see, Jared.
So here's the deal.
Let me see.
Okay,
if I pick Zane Smith for Trucks, does that mean you have to change again?
No, I picked Kaz Grala.
Okay, I got Zane Smith. You got Kaz Grala.
And I'm going with Jade Buford in the Xfinity Series, and I'm going to put $5 on him if he is high enough in the Vegas odds that I can put $5 on him. I'm going to put $5 on Jade Buford with Big Machine Racing, and we're going to send this to the guys at Big Machine if y'all have
Somehow I don't think they'll take too kindly to us reacting like that to you.
Look, I don't know who he is, but y'all keep picking other people, so I'm going to go with the next best driver that I can come up with, and he's a road course racer in sports cars. That's all I know about this guy. And then in Cup, I'm going to pick Joey Logano because I'm going to talk to Joey in the morning when he does his media roundtable, and I'm curious if it's true that he and Brad Keselowski are no longer on speaking terms. So we will see. But he's got something to prove after leading the Daytona 500 and getting taken out by his teammate. So let's go with Kaz Grala, Jade Buford, and Joey Logano.
Sounds
there
good.
you go. And it looks like we have one comment here. Which Jordan Anderson could race sooner in Xfinity? I believe it's in May when he starts. And yes, you would be correct. Let me get the exact races because I believe he's doing 3.
Yeah, it really affects them being a new team with no points, with NASCAR having no qualifying or practice or anything like that they can get on the track.
The next Xfinity race has qualifying, I think, is Coda.
Well, there you go.
Oh, wow.
The shame you missed Daytona in the Xfinity car.
Yeah.
I think he really could have done some damage in that race.
Yeah.
Positive damage, like he could have gotten a really good finish.
Gotten a good finish for the team.
Or literally done some damage.
Well,
Yeah,
and he was a good thing. Yeah.
And he was one of 4 brand new teams that all got locked out, at least from the Xfinity race.
Right.
So.
Well, that's going to do it. I mean, we are done a pretty good show. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Rose Villas Southern Restaurant and Bar. right here in Ormond Beach. It's about, I don't know, a mile and a half from where I'm sitting right now, and we're going to go to dinner there after the Xfinity race on Saturday night. Great food, great drinks. You can follow them. You can see some more if you go to my Twitter. I tweeted about them earlier. But there's also another. The owner of Rosevillas also owns a sushi bar called Fugu, and I went there last night. Amazing sushi. So I had that, and then came home and went to sleep after driving back and forth to Charlotte from Daytona in less than 26 hours. So that's gonna do it here on the show for the kicking the tires and kicking the show with you guys. So I appreciate you joining in, and we'll see y'all next week after the other side.